A profound silence fell upon St. Peter's Square. The usual hustle and bustle of the city seemed to pause, as though the very air was holding its breath. The square, typically filled with the sounds of chatter, footsteps, and busy conversations, now felt wrapped in a serene stillness. It was as though time itself had slowed down in anticipation of something monumental. In this quiet, a vast sea of faces gathered from every corner of the globe. They stood shoulder to shoulder, united by an unspoken sense of anticipation. Their eyes were fixed upwards, looking towards the grand balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, their expressions a mix of hope, curiosity, and reverence. This was not just another moment, it was a defining one in the history of the Catholic Church. The weight of history, the legacy of centuries hung in the air. The grand architecture of St. Peter's Basilica, with its towering columns and centuries-old statues, stood as a reminder of the enduring legacy of the Church. The dramatic lighting cast long, stretching shadows across the square, adding to the sense of gravitas that surrounded the scene. It was a moment that felt sacred, as if the world had paused to witness something extraordinary. The anticipation in the air was palpable as everyone waited for the curtains to part. From this very balcony, important announcements had been made, marking the course of history for the Catholic Church. Tonight, it seemed, would be no different. The world was about to witness a new chapter in the Church's legacy. Then, the moment arrived. The curtains slowly began to part and a figure emerged. The crowd held its collective breath, waiting to see who would step forward. Out of the shadows, stepping into the light, came a man whose presence was both reassuring and surprising: Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, Archbishop of Manila. He was not the most obvious choice for many, but his humility and compassion had earned him a place in the hearts of millions. His appearance on the balcony was both a surprise and a source of great hope. Dressed in his full regalia, Cardinal Tagle exuded calm and grace. His gentle smile, soft yet filled with kindness, reassured the faithful. It was not the smile of a leader focused on power, but one that spoke of empathy, humility, and a deep sense of responsibility. His eyes, filled with sincerity, met the gaze of the crowd, and in that gaze the world saw a leader who understood the weight of the moment and the immense responsibility placed upon him. The crowd's reaction was immediate. A collective gasp rippled through the sea of faces. There was disbelief, surprise, but also excitement and curiosity. What did this mean for the future of the Church? What kind of leader would Pope Tagle be? Whispers spread through the crowd as people turned to one another, sharing their thoughts, trying to make sense of this unexpected moment. The name Tagle began to spread like wildfire. Conversations ignited, and speculation about his leadership filled the air. This was a defining moment, not just for the Catholic Church but for the world. Pope Tagle's election symbolized a shift in the very fabric of the Church. It was a recognition of the global nature of the Catholic faith and the importance of a more inclusive leadership. His election as the 266th Pope of the Catholic Church was not just a personal triumph for him, but a monumental turning point for the entire Catholic community. Tagle was the first Asian pope in the history of the Vatican, a fact that sent shockwaves across the world and marked a significant departure from the long-standing tradition of European popes. The papal conclave, held within the hallowed walls of the Sistine Chapel, had brought together 137 cardinals from around the world. They had gathered in prayer and deliberation, each representing the hopes and aspirations of millions of Catholics across the globe. After several rounds of voting, the white smoke finally rose from the chimney at the top of the Sistine Chapel, signaling the election of a new pope. That white smoke was a symbol not just of a new pope, but of a new era in the Church's history. The choice of Pope Tagle was a clear signal that the Catholic Church was undergoing a profound transformation. His background as a Filipino, born and raised in the Philippines, gave him a unique perspective on the challenges faced by Catholics in the global South. His deep connection to the marginalized and the poor resonated with millions who felt overlooked by the traditional structures of the Church. In a world increasingly divided, his message of unity and inclusion struck a powerful chord. Tagle's election was met with an overwhelming sense of joy, especially in the Philippines. For the first time, the Philippines, a predominantly Catholic nation, had its own son ascending to the papacy. Filipino flags waved proudly in St. Peter's Square, and the streets of Manila were filled with celebrations. This was more than just national pride. It was a moment of hope and unity for the entire nation. It was a testament to the enduring strength of the Catholic faith in the Philippines and the growing influence of the global South in shaping the future of the Church. When Pope Tagle stepped forward to address the world for the first time, a hush fell over St. Peter's Square. The world seemed to hold its breath, eager to hear the words of this humble yet charismatic leader. His voice, warm and compassionate, echoed across the square, carrying a message of hope and peace. Peace to the world, he declared. His words, simple yet profound, resonated with the faithful and non-believers alike. In that moment, Pope Tagle's message transcended language and culture. It was a message that spoke directly to the hearts of all who listened. He spoke of love, compassion, and the need for unity in a world that often felt divided. His words were not just a call to action, but a balm to a world weary from conflict, suffering, and division. Pope Tagle's vision for the Church was clear. He envisioned a church that was truly inclusive, one that embraced people from all walks of life, regardless of their background or beliefs. A church for all, he declared, challenging the Church to be a beacon of hope for the poor, the marginalized, and the forgotten. His call for social justice, environmental stewardship, and interfaith dialogue resonated deeply with millions around the world. In a time of uncertainty and division, Pope Tagle's message was a reminder that the true strength of the Church lies not in its institutions, but in the faith and commitment of its people. He urged Catholics to rediscover the transformative power of their faith, to live it out in their daily lives, and to be instruments of God's love and mercy in the world. As Pope Tagle concluded his address, a sense of peace and hope settled over the crowd. The applause that followed was not just for the man, but for the message he carried. His words had ignited a spark of hope, a call to embrace a new way of being church, one that was inclusive, compassionate, and forward-thinking. His vision of a church that was both ancient and ever new, rooted in timeless truths, yet responsive to the challenges of the modern world, was a message that resonated deeply with the faithful and with those seeking meaning in a divided world. The legacy of Pope Tagle's speech will continue to unfold in the years to come. His words planted seeds of change that will bear fruit in ways that are yet to be seen. As the crowd slowly dispersed, the golden light of the setting sun bathed St. Peter's Square, symbolizing the dawn of a new chapter in the history of the Catholic Church. This was more than just a moment in time. It was the beginning of a new era, one filled with promise, hope, and the possibility of transformation. As the world watched Pope Tagle's historic speech, it became clear that his leadership would not only change the course of the Catholic Church, but could influence the course of history itself. The Church, with all its flaws and challenges, was about to embark on a new journey, one that could bring about a renewed sense of unity, purpose, and love. It was an era marked by greater compassion, deeper faith, and a more inclusive approach to the world's most pressing issues. This moment, this speech, was the rewriting of Vatican destiny. Pope Tagle's leadership promised a future where the Church could once again be a sanctuary for all, a place of love, hope, and healing for the entire world. Journalists from around the world dug deeper into Pope Tagle's life. They told stories of his childhood in the Philippines, his time serving the poor, and his deep love for the people. He had always chosen simplicity over status. Even as a cardinal, he preferred public transport over private cars, and he often visited slums and remote areas where few leaders ever went. These were not just symbolic actions, they were the habits of a man who truly lived his beliefs. Many scholars and church historians described Pope Tagle's election as a long-awaited shift. For centuries, the leadership of the Catholic Church had been centered in Europe. While this tradition had shaped much of the Church's past, it did not fully reflect the growing reality of today's Catholic world. Today, more Catholics live in Africa, Asia, and Latin America than in Europe. The Church's center of gravity had moved, and now finally its leadership reflected that change. Pope Tagle's election was not just about where he came from, it was about what he stood for. He had a reputation for listening more than speaking, for lifting others up instead of putting them down, and for always pointing people back to the simple but powerful truths of the gospel. Love God and love your neighbor.